Hello everyone. Today we are going to study elasticity of demand and its types. And I will discuss with you various content which is related to elasticity of demand. So, first of all, I want to discuss with you concept of elasticity. But before discussing the concept of elasticity of demand and elasticity, I will discuss with you the concept of law of demand, because it is very important to know what is law of demand in brief. Law of demand expresses an inverse relationship between price of a commodity and its quantity demanded, and other things being equal, being constant, being the same. I have already told you the law of demand and the relationship between price and quantity demanded of a commodity. Because in my previous video, I have told you how the demand for any commodity is dependent upon the price of the commodity, other things remaining the same. We also discussed the various types and determinants of demand. However, for making various managerial decisions, this knowledge is not sufficient. For such decisions, a manager requires to know the quantitative means how much change in demand due to a given change in the variable influencing the demand. The concept of elasticity of demand plays an important role in such business decisions. But before discussing the concept of elasticity of demand, I will discuss what is elasticity, because it is very important to know what is the concept of elasticity. Okay. Elasticity is a measure of responsiveness of a dependent variable to a given change in an independent variable. I mean to say the percentage change in a dependent variable resulting from a 1% change in an independent variable is known as elasticity. Okay, elasticity is the measure of responsiveness of a dependent variable to a given change in an independent variable. Elasticity of y is equal to percentage change in x upon percentage change in y. Percentage change in x upon percentage change in y. Note that being a ratio of percentage change, elasticity is independent of the unit of measurement. Okay, so now I will discuss with you the concept of elasticity of demand. Okay, elasticity of demand, I mean to say elasticity of demand is defined as the ratio of percentage change in demand to the percentage change in one of the determinants of demand. One of the determinants of demand. That is why we can say that ED is equal to percentage change in demand upon percentage change in determinants of demand. Any determinants. If you check the elasticity of demand behalf of any determinants, so ED is equal to percentage change in demand upon percentage change in determinants of demand. That means elasticity of demand is a measure of the responsiveness of demand to the change in the variables on which it depends. These variables are price of the commodity, income of the consumer, price of related commodities, and various other factors on which demand depends. Okay, so I mean to say elasticity of demand uh, is a measure of degree of responsiveness. It is also known as price elasticity of demand. This is a concept that the economists use to measure price sensitivity. Price sensitivity. So it tells to what extent the quantity demanded of the commodity will vary when there is a change in its price. So I have told you that these variables are price of the commodity, income of the consumers, price of the related commodities, and various other factors on which demand depends. So accordingly, we have discussed types of elasticity of demand. Why we are study types of elasticity of demand? Because based on the variable that affect the demand, the elasticity of demand is of the following types. First, price elasticity of demand. Second, income elasticity of demand. Third one is cross elasticity of demand. And last one, which I will discuss with you, advertising elasticity of demand. Okay, so I will discuss with you price, income, cross and elasticity of demand. Advertising elasticity of demand is also known as promotional elasticity of demand. So now I am going to discuss the concept of price elasticity of demand. What is price elasticity of demand? Price elasticity of demand expresses relationship between change in the quantity demanded of a commodity and a proportionate change in its price. I mean to say, while calculating price elasticity of demand, the income of consumers, their taste and habits, and price of all the related commodities are taken to be constant. That means I want to say that while calculating price elasticity of demand, other things being constant, being the same, like price of related goods, taste and habits of the buyer, income of the consumers being constant. As already mentioned, price elasticity of demand is so common form of elasticity of demand that when we say elasticity of demand only, we mean to say price elasticity of demand. I have already told you. So price elasticity of demand, we can say that in the tabular form, EP is equal to, focus on this formula, I mean to say EP is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in prices. Okay, we can say in tabular form EP is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in prices, where EP stands for price elasticity and Q is the original quantities demanded. and delta Q is the change in quantity demanded. P is the for original price and delta P is the change in price. Okay. You are seeing the formula which is related to price elasticity of demand. If you are going to measurement for price elasticity of demand, you can use this formula. So I want to explain the meaning. So EP stands for price elasticity, Q is the original price, P is the original price, but delta Q is the change in quantity demanded and delta P is the change in price. Okay, now I am going to discuss types of price elasticity of demand. So first question, why we are discussing, why I am discussing types of price elasticity of demand, because it is very necessary to discuss. Types of price elasticity of demand is also known as degrees of. We can say that types of price elasticity of demand and degrees of. Degrees and types is the same meaning. Okay, so I mean to say, as already explained, the price elasticity of demand is negative for all goods except for goods like inferior goods that are exceptions to the law of demand. The price elasticity varies between 0 and infinite, which will be respective conditions when the good is completely inelastic or perfectly elastic. The extent of responsiveness of demand with change in the price is not always the same. The demand for a product can be elastic or inelastic depending on the rate of change in the demand with respect to change in price of a product. So you can see the formula EP is equal to change in quantity into 100 upon original quantity upon change in price into 100 upon original price. Okay, so now I am going to discuss types of price elasticity of demand. We can categorize. Now I will discuss 5 degrees of price elasticity of demand, because the demand for a product can be elastic or inelastic and highly elastic, perfectly elastic. So depending on the rate of a change in demand with respect to change in price of a product. So I will discuss 5 degrees, I mean to say 5 types of price elasticity of demand. First one is perfectly elastic demand. Next, perfectly inelastic demand. Next one, unitary elastic demand. Next one, highly elastic demand. And last one is inelastic demand. There are 5 degrees of price elasticity of demand: perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic, unitary elastic, highly elastic and inelastic demand. So now I am going to discuss with you 5 degrees of price elasticity of demand step by step. Okay, you can see perfectly elastic demand in the tabular form and graph also. Okay, I am going to explain the concept of perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly elastic demand I am going to discuss, and you see in tabular form and graph also, because it is very helpful to understand, which you will focus on graph and in tabular form. Okay, so perfectly elastic demand means when demand of a commodity increases or decreases to any extent without any change or only upon a small change in its price. Okay, demand of a commodity increases or decreases to any extent without any change or only upon a small change in its prices. Such demand is called perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly elastic demand increases or decreases, but price without any change or only upon a small change. Such demand is called perfectly elastic demand. I mean to say, when demand of a commodity keeps on changing even if there is no change in its price. Okay, so it is called perfectly elastic demand. It is only an imaginary concept. I mean to say, in real life there is no commodity which has perfectly elastic demand. You can see that in the figure we can see a straight line demand curve parallel to x-axis. It shows that at the ruling price OD, any amount of the commodity can be sold, which is a case of perfectly elastic. Demand for any commodity, you can see that demand for any commodity increases like 100, 110, 120, but the same price 10 rupees only. That's been perfectly elastic demand. And in real life there is no commodity which has perfectly elastic demand. It is only an imaginary concept. Now I am going to discuss second one, perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic demand, that means when demand of a commodity doesn't change at all irrespective of any change in its price. It is said to be perfectly inelastic demand. I mean to say, the price elasticity of demand is zero for cheap goods that are generally consumed in fixed quantities like salt. It can be illustrated as shown in figure, like quantity demanded is same 100 in all aspects, but price changes, price increases or decreases. Price increases or decreases, but the quantity demand are the same. Price 10 rupees, then decreases 8 rupees, then decreases 6 rupees, but demand is always same, perfectly inelastic demand. That means elasticity becomes zero. In the figure, a rise in the price of a commodity is followed by absolutely no increase in the quantity demanded. You can see that in the figure, a rise in the price of a commodity is followed by absolutely no increase in the quantity demanded. Now I am going to discuss unitary elastic demand. Unitary elastic demand, that means price elasticity of demand is unity when the change in demand is exactly proportionate to the change in price. Okay, you understand? Price elasticity of demand is unity when the change in demand is exactly proportionate to the change in price. Okay, I can take an example to understand better. Like if on 10% increases in the price of a commodity, demand decreases by 10%. Okay, understand? If on 10% increase in the price of a commodity, demand decreases by 10%. It will be called elasticity demand. For example, demand of the goods of comfort like cars and fashion items like cosmetics are generally found to be elastic. You can see in tabular form, price decreases 10 to 8, 8 to 6, then quantity demanded increases exactly proportionate to the change in prices. Okay, so now I am going to discuss highly elastic demand. Highly elastic demand, that means when proportionate change in the demand of a commodity is more than, not exact proportionate. Highly elastic demand focus on when proportionate change in the demand of a commodity is more than the proportionate change in its price. It is called highly elastic demand. For example, if on 2% increase in the price of a commodity, I am saying only 2% increase in the price of a commodity, but demand decreases by 10%. Highly elastic. Price is changing, but only 2%. On 2% increases in the price of a commodity, demand decreases by 10%. It will be highly elastic demand. Demand of luxuries goods is found to be highly elastic. Okay, you can see in the tabular form and graph also. It will be helpful for you to understand this concept better. Okay, so now I am going to discuss inelastic demand. Inelastic demand, when proportionate change in the demand of a commodity is less than proportionate change in its price. I am saying proportionate change in the demand of a commodity is less than proportionate change in its price. It is said to be less elastic demand, less elastic or inelastic demand. For example, if price of a commodity increases by 20%, but demand decreases only by 5%. Okay, understand? If price of a commodity increases by 20%, but demand decreases only by 5%, effect has come, but not more than. It is less than. It will be less than. It will be called inelastic demand. For example, demand of necessities like wheat and milk is generally found to be inelastic. You can see the figure. price 10 rupees per kg and price decreases 8 rupees per kg, but quantity demanded decreases. Price decreases, quantity demanded increases, but effect only less. It is said to be less elastic demand. Okay, these are the 5 degrees, 5 types of price elasticity of demand. So now I am going to discuss income elasticity of demand. Income elasticity of demand is the degree of responsiveness of the quantity demanded to a change in the consumer's income. Though the demand for a product depends upon its price, it is equally true that demand for a product is influenced by change in the income of consumers. The responsiveness or degree of change in demand for a product as a result of change in income is known as income elasticity. The formula for income elasticity is EI is equal to percentage change in demand for a product upon percentage change in income. So, EI stands for income elasticity. We see that the formula for measuring income elasticity of demand is the same as that for measuring the price elasticity. The only change in the formula is the variable income, which is substituted for the variable price. Note that by income we are referring to the disposal income, income after deduction of taxes. All other formulas are measuring price elasticity may be adopted to measure the income elasticities by replacing variable P with I. Income elasticity of demand, that means the relationship between price and demand is negative except in case of given or inferior goods. However, the relationship between quantity demanded and income is of positive nature. Focus on this point. I am saying that the relationship between price and quantity demanded is always inverse. But the relationship between income and quantity demanded is of positive nature. The demand for most goods and services increases with increase in consumers' income, and the demand for most goods and services decreases with decrease in consumers' income. Therefore, income elasticity of demand is always positive except for inferior goods. Okay, focus on this point. Income elasticity of demand is always positive except for inferior goods. This point is made clear with the help of following example. Suppose that the money income of the consumers increases by 10%, and as a result the amount demanded of a commodity increases by 20%. The price is assumed to remain constant. Then the income elasticity of demand is EY is equal to 20% upon 10% is equal to 2. That means more than unity. In the case income elasticity of demand is low, I mean to say, normally with most goods, income elasticity of demand will be more than one, indicating that with change in income, there would be a change in demand also. And in the same direction, that is, more income means more demand, and less income means less demand. So, from the above discussion, like in this case, income elasticity for the commodity is said to be high. If in the case of another commodity, 10% increase in the money income of the consumers is followed by a small increase in the demand for the commodity, says by 2%, then price elasticity of demand is EY is equal to 2% upon 10% is equal to 0.2. That means less than unity. And second case is unity. From the above discussion, we can see that the positive income elasticity of demand can be unity, more than unity, and less than unity. Income elasticity of demand is more than one when the quantity demanded increases at a faster rate than the rise in consumers' income or decreases at a faster rate than the fall in income. For positive income elasticity is to be less than 1. The relationship will be just the opposite. However, when the rise in consumers' income leads to a proportionate increase in demand of a commodity, income elasticity is said to be unity. However, in case of some goods which are considered very essential for existence, like wheat in North India towns and rice in Bengal and South India, the demand may not change at all or may change very little with a change in income. In this case, income elasticity of demand may not change at all or may change very little with a change in income. In this change, income elasticity of demand may be said to be 0 or even negative. When income increases, consumers may not demand more of rice or wheat but may demand more of other superior food stuffs such as more vegetables, meat, fish, and eggs, butter, ghee, and so on, such that the demand for rice and wheat would actually come down. In other words, the demand for rice and wheat would normally come down when the level of income of the people increases. Such goods are known as inferior goods, and the income elasticity of such goods is low. And the above discussion is summarized in tabular form. Like you can say, you can see the figure. Uh, the discussion is summarized in tabular form, like unity level, more than unity, and less than unity. More than unity, that's mean income level, and relationship between income and EY is less than 1. That's mean less than proportionate change in sale. For example, essential goods like food items and clothes. EY is equal to 1, almost proportionate change in sale. If income increases 10%, so demand also increases 10%. like comfort goods, like fashion items, cosmetics, etc. And if y is greater than 1, that means more than proportionate increase in sale. Luxuries goods such as cars, air conditions, mobile phones, etc. Now, I am going to discuss cross elasticity of demand. Cross elasticity of demand is an economic concept that measures the responsiveness in the quantity demanded of one good when the price for another good changes. Also called cross price elasticity of demand, that the measurement is calculating by taking the percentage change in the quantity demanded of one good and dividing it by the percentage change in the price of other goods. Okay, so you can say that cross elasticity of demand measures a change in the quantity demanded of a particular commodity in response to a change in the price of some related commodities. It can be defined as proportionate change in the demand of a commodity X, demand of a commodity X in response of a proportionate change in the price of a related commodity Y. So, cross elasticity of demand is equal to proportionate change in the demand of commodity X upon proportionate change in the price of commodity Y. That's why cross elasticity of demand is the ratio of percentage change in quantity demanded of a product to percentage change in price of a related product. I mean to say the demand for any product is dependent upon the price of other product. So I think it is a very necessary to discuss some important point related to the cross elasticity of demand. So next topic which I am going to discuss with you, important conclusions regarding cross elasticity of demand. Okay, so please try to understand this concept with the help of some important conclusion regarding CED. CED means cross elasticity of demand. So I have taken 5 points to understand this concept, and first of all I want to discuss there may be two forms of cross elasticity of demand. Two forms, that's been only two forms. Cross elasticity is in respect of complementary goods and cross elasticity in respect of substitute goods. I mean to say there may be two forms of cross elasticity, complementary goods and substitute goods. Okay. Second important point which I want to convey with you, if the goods are substitutes, two types of goods are cross elasticity of demand. First is first and second which you taken substitutes goods and complementary goods. So if the goods are substitutes or substitute of each other, for example tea and coffee, such as tea and coffee, cross elasticity of demand will be positive, because it implies is that on an increase in the price of a commodity, its demand decreases, but the demand of substitute goods will increase. Similarly, on a fall in the price of a commodity, demand of its substitute goods decreases. Next important point, if the goods are complementary to each other, such as scooter and petrol, pen and ink, etc., cross elasticity of demand will be negative. On an increase in the price of a commodity, demand of its complementary goods will decrease, and on a fall in the price of a commodity, demand of its complementary goods will increase. I mean to say, if cross elasticity of demand is positive, it implies that both the goods are substitute to each other. Okay, understand? If CD is positive, it implies that both the goods are substitutes to each other. If cross elasticity of demand is negative, it is not necessary that both the goods are complementary to each other. I have discussed with you, there may be two forms of cross elasticity of demand. Okay, understand? First is substitute goods and second is complementary goods. Next important point, if the goods are substitute of each other, such as coffee and tea, cross elasticity of demand will be positive, because it implies that on an increase in the price of commodity, its demand decreases, but the demand of substitute goods will increases. Similarly, on a fall in the price of commodity, demand of its substitute goods decreases. And if the goods are complementary to each other, such as scooter and petrol, pen and ink, etc., cross elasticity of demand will be negative, because on an increase in the price of commodity, demand of its complementary goods will decreases, and on a fall in the price of commodity, demand of its complementary goods will increase. But main important point is, if cross elasticity of demand is positive, both the goods are substitutes to each other, confirm. If cross elasticity of demand is negative, it is not necessary that both the goods are complementary to each other, because on a sudden change in price of a commodity also, cross elasticity may be negative. I mean to say, if both the goods are complementary to each other, it is not necessary that both the goods are complementary. On a sudden change in price of a commodity also, cross elasticity may be negative. So it is not necessary that both the goods are complementary to each other. On a sudden change in price of a commodity also, cross elasticity may be negative. Okay, and last point which I will discuss with you, if cross elasticity of demand is 0, it implies that both the goods are independent. Independent, there is no relationship between two goods. That is why cross elasticity of demand is 0. It implies that both the goods are independent. Okay, so this type of elasticity arises in the case of interrelated goods such as substitutes and complementary goods. The two commodities will be complementary if a fall in the price of Y increase the demand for X, and conversely a rise in the price of one commodity decrease the demand for other. They will be substitute or rival goods if a reduction in the price of Y decreases the demand for X, and also if a rise in price of one commodity, say tea, increases the demand for the other commodity, say coffee. The cross elasticity of demand of a complementary goods is positive, and that between substitutes it is negative. A 0 or near 0 cross elasticity suggests that the two products being considered are unrelated or independent goods. Okay, a zero or near zero. Cross elasticity suggests that the two products being considered are unrelated or independent goods. For example, I mean to say an example is bicycle and mobile phone. Bicycle, cycle and mobile phone. We would not expect a change in the price of bicycles to have any change on purchase of mobile phone, because there are no any connection between the two products. So I have discussed with you some important conclusion. I think you understand. You have understand the cross elasticity of demand clearly. So I have discussed with you price elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand and cross elasticity of demand. So thank you so much all the students, all the person. Now I am going to wind up this video because I have discussed all the important point. Thank you all.